We saw some things at the home that were concerning to us. We believe now, after we processed that crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime. We know she didn't just walk out of there. She did not leave on her own. Nancy Guthrie is of great sound mind. This is not a dementia related. She is as sharp as a tack, and we're asking the community's help.
It's been 18 days since Nancy Guthrie disappeared, so is the search for the 84-year-old turning international? Our own investigators are weighing in. Plus, weeks before Nancy Guthrie vanished, somebody was reportedly searching her. Could these online clues be the key to finding her? And chilling testimony detailing the moments leading up to the deadly Appalachia High School shooting. We're spotlighting the murder trial for Father Colin Gray. Also, the deadly weapon up close, the AR-style semi-automatic rifle that prosecutors say Colin Gray bought for his son for Christmas. The jury got to see it up close, and how will that tip the scales? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Thursday morning, my friends, and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some Court? It's that time where we get you all warmed up and ready to go for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. So we'll kick it off as we always do. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. Look up and ask questions. My friends, it seems to me that we've become conditioned in our society not to question what we see because we might offend somebody. I'm thinking about this because of a particular piece of evidence that was introduced in Colin Gray's trial. This. So his son, Colt Gray, is accused of carrying out a massacre with the rifle that his dad gave him. And the prosecution showed the jury this video of Colt getting on his school bus, carrying the rifle, sticking out of his backpack and wrapped up in cardboard and a sock. Look how heavy that looks. Look how awkward he looks carrying it. Do most people need two hands to carry a piece of poster board? Don't think so. My friends, I bring this up as a lesson that we can all take away from this tragedy and apply to our lives. We need to be aware of our surroundings. We need to look up and notice who's around us and what they're up to. Because if Colt Gray's the only kid walking into that school carrying a heavy-looking poster board with two hands and it's not science fair day, that's a red flag. Ask him what he's doing. Ask, what's so large that it can't fit in your backpack, son? And what's so heavy that you need two hands to hold it? I recognize that hindsight is 20/20, and this is in no way meant to cast any blame. I want to be very clear. Everyone at that school was innocent. Everyone at that school was victimized. I'm only saying this so that we can take a lesson along with us to try to help ourselves. We can't change the past, so we have to look ahead. We have to be observant. We have to be extra vigilant. And we can't be afraid to question what doesn't look right. So what if somebody gets offended? At the end of the rainbow, that won't matter. But your life does. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, time for your daily docket.
He got on his stomach. He put his arms out to the side like an airplane, and then he turned his head and didn't look, turned his head away from us. When we got close enough, Sergeant Boyd pulled his handcuffs out, and I kept him at gunpoint to provide lethal coverage while Sergeant Boyd placed him in handcuffs.
The case I was just talking about, the murder trial for defendant and father Colin Gray, it resumes at 9 a.m. Eastern time in Georgia. And also happening in Georgia, we have the sentencing of Edric Faust. That's set to happen later today at 3 p.m. Eastern. He was convicted in the murder of UGA law student Tara Baker. And in Michigan, we've got testimony resuming in the trial for defendant Dale Warner. This guy's accused of murdering his once believed to be missing wife, Dee Warner. Court gets underway at 9 a.m. Eastern. Right now, let's take you to your top story. Could Nancy Guthrie be in Mexico? On Wednesday, Harvey Levin from TMZ says that his sources say that the FBI has reached out to authorities in Mexico.
The search for Nancy Guthrie has gone international. We have learned the FBI has told federal Mexican law enforcement to tell various police agencies to be on the lookout for Nancy and her kidnapper. Now, our law enforcement sources are telling us that it is possible they believe that Nancy was taken across the border, but they doubt if she is across the border that it happened directly after the kidnapping.
The Pima County Sheriff's Department put out a statement saying, quote, PCSD has received various requests for confirmation of various topics, including working with Mexican authorities, utilizing polygraph tests, specific video surveillance requests, financial analysis, etc. PCSD is not confirming or releasing any details regarding those topics at this time, end quote. All right. Well, they're not answering questions, but our investigators will. So let's bring them in now and talk about whether the search has gone international and whether Nancy Guthrie can be found in Mexico. I want to welcome in two extremely seasoned retired NYPD detectives, Sergeant and Detective Dan Murphy and Detective Mike Alcazar. Good morning to you both. Sarge, I'll begin with you. Your thoughts on whether Nancy Guthrie may be in Mexico?
Nancy Guthrie could be anywhere. Given the proximity to the Mexican border of her house, it's entirely possible that whoever abducted her, providing it was an actual abduction at this point, we're not 100% certain of that, she could be in Mexico, absolutely. I think it's a reasonable next step for investigators to reach out to Mexican authorities to ask them to be on the lookout. To not do so would be a dereliction of duty. It's not that far away. It makes sense to look there.
Mm-hmm, right. Detective Alcazar, your thoughts on this, please.
Yeah, I agree with the Sarge. That should have been done all along. I'm sure it's being pushed further now because of the recent video of the suspect and the negative results in the CODIS database. So if this person is not in our DNA database, there is a potential that this person could be a foreign national, could be undocumented migrant. So it's definitely a good step in this investigation and something they should absolutely entertain.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you brought up that point, Detective. So when you say not in our database, so the FBI has this database. CODIS is the acronym, C-O-D-I-S. Our wonderful Cordies at home, if you see that. Criminals, and when they get lodged, you know, they get their DNA taken, it goes in the system, and it's a wonderful tool for detectives like yourselves, you know, to use to see if DNA at the scene matches somebody who's been a frequent flyer in the system before. But as you noted, Detective Alcazar, no match there. We understood that they're going to pursue genealogical DNA testing. Sergeant Murphy, do you think that there's much hope for that, for genealogical DNA testing here?
Certainly, there's always hope for it. It depends upon what happens in the near future. There might be an arrest of someone. There might be a collection of evidence from a scene, some other place that comes through. There could be something in the pipeline right now, just hasn't made its way into the system. You never give up on this sort of thing, especially since in a case like this, we don't know how long we're going to be looking for Nancy Guthrie or the people responsible for this. And I think there's a real push in the media. People say, how come the case hasn't been solved yet? These are complex cases. There's a lot of people that are looking right now, doing really hard work on everything that's available. But this could take a long time, and DNA might be what breaks it. It could be a week from now, it could be a year from now.
Mm-hmm. Excellent point, Sarge. You both know this well, and we've talked about this before on this program, as you know, but I think this is an appropriate time to bring it up. You know, we all love the fiction crime dramas, the shows. I love them all, and I love watching them, and they're very well done. But they don't do things practically. Things aren't solved in an hour's time. These things take time, as you said. And so for anybody at home thinking, my gosh, this seems like it's taking way too much time, Detective Alcazar, under these circumstances, is this about right? What do you think about the time frame as we're looking here on day 18?
Yeah, I personally don't like watching any police shows because I feel like they get it all wrong. But yeah, this is pretty much par for the course. I think that it seems like it's a longer investigation because everyone's invested in it. Everyone's watching it. Everyone's getting daily updates on it. The sheriff is the king of word salad, and people are getting frustrated with it. But I'm sure behind the scenes, the investigators, the FBI agents are, doing their best to solve their case, processing evidence, relying on people to test this evidence, relying on Google to yield results. So it's a long, arduous process, and it's normal.
And I love how you tell it like it is, Professor Alcazar. I got a clip for you. Speaking of the sheriff, let's take a look at this.
I firmly believe someone out there knows something. Someone out there saw something, heard something. We need that person to call us.
Has there been any evidence so far that Nancy is still alive, or is it just hope of investigators and the family?
There's been no evidence that she's not.
Okay. Sergeant Murphy, it's a grim reality, as we know. What do you think the likelihood is that Nancy Guthrie is still alive?
I think it's slim. I think just simply based upon the time, her age, the circumstances of the blood found at the scene. I do not know if proof of life, and we don't know, has been provided to the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office. We don't know that. They haven't released it. Absent that, I would say there's a good possibility she's not with us anymore, simply because of all the circumstances. If you look at them collectively, it does not paint a picture that she's around. If I was an abductor and I was holding her for ransom, I would want you to know she's okay. She's my bargaining chip. She's the reason I'm going to get money. If I can't put that forward, she's not with me.
Yeah, exactly. Great points. Let's take a look at TMZ. They got another ransom note. I believe this is number 4 now. Let's take a look.
This is a highly sophisticated demand involving a form of crypto, not Bitcoin. Now, it is demanding roughly the same amount as the demand letter we received shortly after the kidnapping, the $6 million demand. The demand graphically describes the consequences if the demand is not met.
Okay, I want to make a correction. Fifth note TMZ has received. Detective Alcazar, your thoughts on these notes?
Yeah, from what I understand, that's probably being investigated separately, like a completely separate case, because it could be potentially a hoax. I think initially everybody found it informative that TMZ is releasing this information. But, now we're on our 5th note. TMZ is becoming like the boy who cried wolf, and no one's really enjoying it anymore. We're not entertained by this. So I think it's just adding confusion to this case. It's outside noise that might not be relevant.
Right. We know the reward has been upped. We will see what happens. Stand by, detectives, kindly, please. We got to hit a break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion about Nancy Guthrie. And did you know that apparently someone's Google searches of her are trending this morning? That's right. Somebody was looking her up in the weeks before she vanished. Could that be a clue? We'll talk about it. Plus, chilling testimony describing the horrific scene during the Appalachia High School shooting.
There are a bunch of bullet holes in the wall. I looked down to my right-hand side, closest to the door. I observed a human-like object laying on the ground motionless. Went and checked on him and deemed he was deceased. No amount of medical care could save him. And then there's a few other victims in that room. And then one student caught my attention and said, she just went out.
In 2021, Dee Warner vanished without a trace.
Dale Warner. He's accused of murdering his wife, Dee.
Rumors of a troubled marriage spread throughout this small community.
She had contemplated divorce several times.
Now, after years of searching for Dee Warner,
her remains are found on the couple's property, sealed inside a welded shut storage tank.
We're still going to fight to the end to see that she gets her justice.
The hidden murder of Dee Warner. Live coverage today on Court TV.
We still have hope, and we still believe, and it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here.
Nancy Guthrie's disappearance continues to trend this morning, and we're learning that an internet user might have searched for the 84-year-old's home address prior to her disappearance. According to Fox News, Google Trends records show one search for Nancy Guthrie's address between June 21st and 28th back in 2025 by somebody in Arizona. We know that Nancy Guthrie's address was searched again on January 11th, 2026. Fox News also reporting that leading up to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, Savannah Guthrie's salary may have also been searched from Tucson sometime between December 13th through the 20th in 2025. So the question we're asking this morning, could these internet searches lead to possible suspects? Let's bring back in our law enforcement experts, Professor and Detective Mike Alcazar and Sergeant and Detective Dan Murphy. Detective Alcazar, I'll start with you, please. Your thoughts on the searches?
Yeah, that's a good investigative lead in this day of technology. It's normal for investigators to search any kind of history, electronic history. When we conduct the victimology of the victim, we assess like information in her background, anybody that had threats with her, her family, financial difficulties. So it's normal, because who would search Nancy Guthrie? I don't think the world knew who Nancy Guthrie was before this case. So it's unusual that somebody would run her name on Google and then find out that they're running Savannah's salary too.
Mm-hmm, right. You know, criminals always think they're so smart. And as you both know, they're not. And so to think somebody can hide behind a computer, you know, if this person searching is behind this, Sergeant Murphy, how much of a clue do detectives get from those Google Trends searches and the data that can be extracted? I mean, can they find an exact address of where the person is living?
I think it's more likely they'll find the IP address of the computer itself that the search was done on. Excuse me. And it might have been done in a public place like a library. If somebody's crafty, it could be done on a laptop that could be moved around. It could be on a desktop. Could be done anywhere. I would say that the ability of the FBI to do searches with regards to anything that's done, any keystroke on a computer, is amazing. And so if I were this person and I heard this in the news today, I would be really concerned.
Oh, definitely. So this is something that you have to wonder, could this be the best lead yet? Detective Alcazar, what do you say?
I mean, it's a good lead. It's something that's probative that they can examine. Again, we're not privy to whatever evidence that they have collected in the house. I'm sure they're working on that. There's a lot of things behind the scenes. I kid about the sheriff a lot, but there's a lot of things going on in the background that we don't have information on. So I'm confident that this is probably a good one, but there's probably more information that they're processing right now.
Sure. Now, and if the search for Nancy Guthrie wasn't compelling enough, guess what? There's a law enforcement connection to reality TV as well.
There's more criminal activity out because the sun's down. It's cooling off outside. This area is known for its high drug content. People will definitely use the darkness to facilitate their crimes. What the hell? That's interesting.
So that was a snippet from A&E's Desert Law, which features the Pima County Sheriff's Office led by Sheriff Chris Nanos. Seasons 1 and 2 were filmed back-to-back in 2025, so coverage of the Nancy Guthrie case doesn't seem likely. Now, the docu-series premiered in January, and Sheriff Nanos himself does not appear on camera. But according to The Hollywood Reporter, Nanos does communicate with the production company on what is seen and heard on the show. So, Any concerns about Desert Law docu-series pertaining to the Nancy Guthrie investigation? Let's talk about it. Let's bring back in Mike Alcazar and Dan Murphy. Okay, Sarge, I'll go to you on this one. What a coincidence, isn't it? What do you think?
Well, this is not uncommon. We have so many television shows now focused on reality policing, etc. So this is not unexpected that this would happen. It just happens to be that it's in the same county that this major global investigation is taking place in. Cameras can change people. Cameras can make people act in different ways than they would if they weren't there, good and bad. I'm assuming that this show just happened to be something that was there. It was an opportunity for them to talk about what it's like to patrol and work in an area like Tucson, Arizona, that is near the Mexican border and not too far away from all the activity that's happened in the past few years with migrants coming in, et cetera. So this could just be total coincidence. And I don't see this affecting the investigation in any way, shape, or form unless they're going to give out certain elements of what they do that they shouldn't be talking about. But that's why they would screen this before it goes out on the air. If anything, the men and women, if you know you're on camera, sometimes it can be a real shot in the arm for you and let you know somebody cares about what you're doing. And these shows also tend to, at times, create a level of respect and understanding among the public about what police officers do. So that's a good thing.
It sure is. All important points there, Sarge. Detective Alcazar, what do you think about this coincidence?
I agree with everything that Sarge said. It's all the positive things. I'm going to talk about the negative. I think it's a re-election strategy. I think Nano's just got reelected, so he's trying to promote his police department. He's trying to show that they're doing good work. I think he's always talking about like politics, and politics have no place in this, but apparently it is, because again, he's showcasing his agency and the good work they're doing. So it's kind of like almost like a selfish strategy for him.
Mm-hmm. You know, I wonder if he's at all leading this still. Looking at things, I would assume it's the FBI running the show almost entirely, and maybe this is just, it's his jurisdiction where this occurred. I'm curious what you both think on that. Sarge, do you think the FBI is running things? Is this pretty much out of this guy's hands at this point?
Well, he's in the mix, of course, because it's his agency. However, if he is a wise man, he's standing back and letting people who really know what they're doing and really have the tools, both from his agency and within the FBI, do their work. He's overseeing it, perhaps at best. But you let the people who know what they're doing do their jobs and stay out of their way and facilitate their job. That's the best type of investigative leader there is. And I hope that's what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. Detective Alcazar, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's just the face of this investigation, but I believe the real work is being conducted by the FBI. I mean, he loves the camera. He loves to talk about this case, but I think he's not doing it. I think it's the FBI doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. He's not part of that show. I think he would have been great on TV for that show. Like you said, he really seems to enjoy the time in front of the camera and has a really nice way about him in front of the cameras. So maybe another season. Right now, they have bigger things to be concerned with, as we know. Excellent insights from you both. As always, Detective Mike Alcazar, Detective and Sergeant Dan Murphy, thank you both kindly. We'll hit a break. When we come back, here's what's next on Opening Statements. We're spotlighting the case of the father of the alleged high school shooter. We're taking a closer look at the haunting testimony that came before the jury in day 3.
I remember Melody, she had blood all on her arm. I remember her blood was like getting on the side of me because I was like kind of like laying on the side of her.
We're spotlighting the stunning testimony in the murder trial for Father Colin Gray. Court is set to resume any minute now in Georgia. Gray is facing a jury for second-degree murder charges in connection with his son's alleged actions during the 2024 shooting at Appalachia High School. On Wednesday, the jury, once again, taken back in time to that dreadful day when Colt Gray allegedly walked into the school armed with a semi-automatic rifle.
So you're trying to find this student that you don't know what he looks like?
Correct.
What steps do you do to try and do that?
So we are trying to first get a visual of him when he left the classroom. So we were trying to nail down what time he left the classroom so we knew where to look on the cameras.
And what is that?
This is Ms. Greer's email to me at 10/22/04 saying he just came back to class.
That came at 10/22/04. How soon after that entered did you see it?
Oh, immediately.
How soon after you saw that did you hear shots? Or did you hear shots?
Definitely heard shots. Once I saw this, the location of my office is with the atrium. I've got windows right there, and the SROs were, now there were 3 of them. And so all 3 of them were in the atrium, and so I was trying to get their attention through the window and realized quickly that wasn't going to work. So I was exiting my office when I heard gunshots.
Okay. How many shots did you hear?
Couldn't tell you.
When we make the turn and turn right down the hall, Deputy King and I are presented with a lot of smoke and dust in the hallway. The concussion from the AR firing and the drop ceiling, the dust and everything shook down, making it very hard to see. All I could make out was a dark or black silhouette in the smoke toward the end of the hall. I want to say somewhere in here, one of the victims was laying in the hallway. Because of the smoke and the dust and everything, I initially thought it was a duffel bag until I got close enough. Once we got pretty close to Colt, we were able to see that he was a student. The AR was down in front of him. He was compliant. We were able to get him down. While doing that, I was able to take multiple full magazines for the AR-15 out of his pockets and kind of secure those out of the way.
You come upon a room where there is victims.
Correct.
Which room is that?
This is Ryan's classroom.
Are you one of the first ones there?
Yes, sir.
Describe the scene in Miss Ryan's room when you arrived.
There are a bunch of bullet holes in the wall. I looked down to my right-hand side, closest to the door. I observed a human-like object laying on the ground motionless. Went and checked on him and deemed he was deceased. No amount of medical care could save him. And then there was a few other victims in that room, and then one student caught my attention and said, "She just went out, she just went out." So I went over to that student, picked her up.
You know now what student's name was?
Her name was Taylor Jones. I went up to Miss Taylor Jones and I observed her. She was laying motionless. She was white as a sheet. Her lips were blue. I wasn't exactly sure. So I picked her up and started making my way to the door. So I made my way to the door. A stretcher was right next to that door. I laid her on the stretcher, myself and Lieutenant Woody. Started to look, see where she was hit. I lifted her shirt to see if she was hit anywhere in the upper torso region. Lieutenant Woody went down around her lower, like her legs and all that. And the RTF member came up, and then I immediately left and started checking more classroom.
A testimony is hard to hear, I'll tell you that much. Let's bring in our legal analyst guest and talk about how it's going to impact the jurors. Attorney John Phillips joining us this morning. John, good morning to you. I know your heart's breaking like mine is. Your thoughts on what the men and women on that jury might be thinking and feeling right now?
You start me off crying this morning.
I know.
Truly, that was a great cut of the testimony. Look, I'm the son of a teacher. Where's mom? Let's get dad. All right. And what teachers are going through right now. And I'm also the father of a 14, 8, and 11-year-old. And so what teachers are going through right now is just unfair, unfathomable. And, you know, I'm all for charging every parent, every gun manufacturer, every store that is marketing to these children. And they literally are. And you know, the jury has the toughest case in the world whenever there's, you know, deceased children, deceased teachers. These are people from their community, and it's just heartbreaking this morning.
John, I want to go through some of the facts with you. You heard me popping off on my opening statement about this video, and nobody's questioning that. That's a whole nother point. But this kid had a shrine to Nicholas Cruz in his bedroom. Okay, he erected a shrine to Nicholas Cruz, that monster, evil killer, mass murderer in Parkland. That's in this kid's bedroom. Apparently that doesn't raise eyebrows. In September 2021, the kids searched how to kill your dad while he was at school. That's lovely. Then in May of 2023, the FBI gets a tip about him. He's on the digital platform Discord, threatening to shoot up a school. So the kid made a threat before, investigated, nothing happened. And then he missed most of his 8th grade year because he sat out. He became reclusive, started cutting himself, so exhibiting mental health difficulties, breaking windows, exhibiting violent behavior. In December 2023, Dad gifts him the rifle. Gave him that nice Sig Sauer rifle as a Christmas present after the violent tendencies and the mental instability. And the days before the shooting, the kid tells his dad that he's hearing voices in his head. And I'll tell you something else, John Phillips, these parents knew the kid was mentally unstable and they're medicating him. They're giving him mom's prescription. This is a mental health problem. I am incensed at these parents. I know you are too. Go ahead, my friend.
I am. And these cases all track. I mean, we've got Ryan Palmatier, who shot up the Dollar General here in Jacksonville. Same thing. He had a shrine to Nick Cruz. They write these manifestos and they get on 4chan and they post about each other and they brag about, you know, their access to prescriptions and you know, again, Google searching how to kill your dad. Like there are signs if you just parent people. Like it's not that hard. I do it mostly alone with a 14, 11, and 8-year-old. I know their girlfriends. I know their friends. I know what's going on. And I'm still able to have a life. I'm still able to work. You know, you breed these people in, you've got to protect them from themselves sometimes. And that's what that's what we're seeing, because they're just left to let the internet parent them. And we know how that's going to go, right? Most states regulate giving firearms to unsound minds and certainly minors. And when you give them to both, like, you should be prosecuted. You should be sued into oblivion.
Yes. Yes, that's a good point, John. Dad should be sued as well. If the lawsuits haven't already happened, surely they will after this trial. Look at this. I mean, look at that kid. This is incredible to me. John, we're also waiting, as you know, to hear some more really big evidence in this trial against Dad. Because there are text messages that show that the son sent his dad in August of 2024. Remember, the shooting happens in September, so a month before the massacre. The kid tells his dad that whenever anything happens, blood will be on his dad's hands. And then later in the month of August, he asked his grandma if he did something terrible, if she would still love him. And apparently that caused her great concern. And you know, John, I feel for all these other parents, because I'm sure it is tough enough just being a parent, but then you have to worry about sending your kid to school with other kids who aren't being properly parented. This guy's letting his kids sleep with that rifle in his bedroom. Yeah, I mean, that is just unsafe gun ownership, period. But then under these circumstances, John.
I'm on my elementary school kids SACs, Student Advisory Council, and we talk about these issues. And as I'm walking back and forth, I fist bump the principal. I'm like that guy, and they also know I take First Amendment cases and protect teachers. But like, what are we doing in this world where we're just letting the internet parent and just, over-regulating teachers, not giving them the resources and mental health treatment they need, underpaying them, and then expecting everything just to work out while all our leaders and everybody spewing hate at each other. And again, I've dug into the mind of some of these killers, and it's super dark, but it's like cliche. Like, they're into meme culture. Like, it's silly, and any modicum of parenting would get us to where we don't, like, just save one, just stop one.
Yeah, don't give your child a firearm when they have mental health problems. Like, an idiot would know that. Like, to me, John, I said this before, I'll say it again. This case, it's like an idiot drill. Like, all these things, big, giant red flags coming up, and still, oh no, son, keep the rifle in your bedroom. Maybe keep it next to the shrine to the mass murderer from Parkland. That's a good idea. Makes me sick. Good for these prosecutors, I say, in bringing this case. I think they're doing a fine job. John Phillips, as you know, we're not done talking about it. We're going to talk about the weapon that was put before the jury yesterday. We're going to talk about that next.
This is an AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle.
And approximately how much would this kind of weapon cost?
It's going to be around probably $1,000. Yeah, 7.25 pounds, which is essentially the amount of force it takes for this firearm to discharge when pulling the trigger.
Okay. And can you give us kind of something of an analogous weight to sort of quantify what that would feel like?
Yeah, so like a gallon of milk is about 8 pounds.
Firearms expert on the stand. The jury takes a look at what this kid brought to school in his backpack. That's next.
This is the story of the Richins. Eric, a father of 3, met an untimely end, and Corey, his widow, wrote a children's book on grief.
She's also charged now with his murder.
He was faced with betrayal and terror.
I know her innocence.
Is their story a tragic romance?
Or a twisted tale of grief?
The truth will come out.
The Grieffather murder trial. Live coverage begins Monday morning, 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Jury also got to see a photo of Colin Gray in jail clothing after his arrest. So he's alleged to have carried out the massacre, and his dad is alleged to have enabled it. His dad is being charged with second-degree murder here. So let's talk about the significance of the evidence that the jury got to see on Wednesday. How might seeing that big rifle tip the scales of justice? Still with me, attorney John Phillips. I want to welcome in the studio with me, former criminal defense attorney, also a civil attorney now, Erica Wilson. Erica, good morning to you. Great to have you along with us. And I want to start with you, please, with how impactful you think this was yesterday when the jury got to look at that big firearm up close.
So I think people really discount the power of demonstrative evidence, right? Because it certainly does impact jurors to be able to see it. It's emotive. The state knew that it would be emotive, and it was effective. It was effective.
You're right.
Because just seeing the sheer size of it and also knowing that that was the weapon that actually took the lives of so many people, those type of things actually do have an impact on jurors. It really would. It was shocking all for me to just see, and I'm not there in person, I'm just seeing it on TV, but to see it there in person and to imagine the harm that thing caused in and of itself is definitely powerful.
Yes, you're so right. And on that point, John Phillips, I'll go to you next on this point. When the advocate, in this case, the prosecutors are presenting it, it's a powerful moment where we see there's silence in the courtroom. You and Erica watched the tape back, and we can see the video playing as we're talking here. She looks very somber, the assistant district attorney who's walking the items of evidence in front of the jury. What does that powerful pause, John, do for the jurors?
She's doing it perfectly. Like, too many lawyers get in their own way and talk or smug, and she is letting the firearm speak for itself, They know what it did. You don't need to be, cutesy with it. The first thing I did when I got the mass shooting here at the Dollar General, is I went to the same store and bought the same gun in the same way, and it's sitting in a locked closet here in my office. And it tells the story, and then kind of how it all went down. And so kudos, Erica Wilson nailed it. This prosecutor's nailing it. Just let the evidence speak for itself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And Erica, as we look at those cartridges in the magazine, we're looking down the magazine there in that last shot, and we saw all of the ammunition lined up in one of the photos. I think back to how this kid allegedly loaded up every single one of them, allegedly with the intention to murder as many people as he could. It sends chills up and down my spine. Your thoughts, please.
Exactly, and I literally just caught a chill. And I think that that's something that's going to resonate with the jurors, to know that you had to stop and pause and continue to reload. And we're dealing with children. We're dealing with children. There's just a certain line you don't cross. Children and old people, for me, it's always going to be a very sensitive topic. And for her to bring out the gun, to see, and she was a relatively dainty person, and to see the size of the weapon up against her, and then to know that he would have to stop and pause and keep reloading, and then keep reloading, and then reload again in order to inflict harm on these children and the adults that were in the building that day, definitely is something that's going to resonate with those jurors. They're going to carry that with them into that juror room when it's time to deliberate.
Yeah, you're exactly right. As you were talking, you made me think of something, Erica, when you said how dainty that prosecutor is. I thought, that's smart. If you're the prosecutor's office, you're not going to get your biggest ADA, some big, strong, man to hold that up. No, get a small, petite woman to hold it up and show the jury. Oh, look how big that magazine is. And he had extra magazines. This is it's incredible to me that he was able to bring that into the school and it raised no eyebrows. John Phillips, we have about a minute left. Last word to you before we need to let you go. Your thoughts on what the jury might be thinking at this point in the trial with the physical evidence they looked at with this firearm and all the ammunition, and about Dad's alleged enabling. Dad allegedly was the one who bought the firearm and bought the extra ammunition at the request of the son. Your thoughts, John?
Invariably, there are going to be some jurors that have been trained that the Second Amendment is related to this in some way, and it's not. This isn't a Second Amendment case. This is a case of a dad giving a son who was underage a killing device in this instance. Not a gun for protection, not a gun for self-defense, not a gun for shooting. This was the wrong place, wrong time, wrong parenting, wrong everything, and lives were lost and injured forever.
Yeah, you're exactly right, my friend. John Phillips, always great to have you on this program. Thank you so much. And friends at home, we're continuing our discussion. Erica Wilson is licensed in Georgia. She's practiced as a criminal defense attorney there. And when we come back, we're going to do a deep dive on the charges. Are these charges appropriate on the facts? So that is coming up, and court is set to start in just about 6 minutes from now, so that times perfectly with our break. We thank you for watching Opening Statements this morning. If you like the episode, share it, watch it again. We put them up every day on our website for you. Just go to courttv.com, click on that red shows tab right there.